emerge victorious. There were a few more obstacles, but basically the biggest obstacle had been removed, Bhishma Dev. So Arjun came to Bhishma Dev, his worshipable Bhishma Dev. So Bhishma Dev said, at least you can do me one thing. I'm lying here on the bed of arrows. At least give me a pillow. So Arjun came and with a quick another round of arrows, Bhishma Dev made him a pillow. He said, I need to stay here for some time. At least make me a pillow. So Bhishma Dev, he had the boon that he could decide whenever he wanted to die. So he said, I will wait for Uttarayana before I die. So generally, Uttarayana is a very auspicious time to leave the world. Because when the sun is rising, when the sun is in a certain configuration, this is called Uttarayana. And if you leave your body at that time, it said the yogis attain perfection. But in the commentary, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that actually Uttarayana has another meaning. Because Uttarayana can mean the time when the sun is rising, but Uttarayana can also mean the personality who appeared in the womb of Uttara to protect Parikshit. So on one hand, Bhishma Dev says, I'm waiting for Uttarayana. Some people think it means he's waiting for the sun. But actually what he was really waiting for is for Krishna, who appeared in the womb of Parikshit to appear before him. So at the end of the war, the Kauravas had been annihilated. And just as at the beginning of the war, Krishna had to act as a counselor to Arjun, at the end of the war of Kurukshetra, Krishna had to act as a counselor for Yudhishthira. Because just as Arjun was bewildered in the beginning, Yudhishthira was bewildered in the end. Because Yudhishthira said, so many people have died just so that we could win this war. He was feeling very, very bad. So this time Krishna said, my words were good enough for Arjun, but I don't know what I will say to you now. Therefore, let us go and see Bhishma Dev. So Krishna told Yudhishthira, put on your finest clothes. Yudhishthira said, my finest clothes? When you're going to see somebody who's about to die, you don't dress up as though you're going to some big event with fancy clothes. Generally, you don't do that. You go in a very humble way. When Bhishma Dev sees that now you are reigning in royal opulence, he will be very, very happy. So Yudhishthira went, the Pandavas went, Krishna went, and they all went to see Bhishma Dev. There are different climates and situations in different parts of the world. And if one has to discharge his duties to preach the message of the Lord, he must be expert in adjusting things in terms of time and place. Bhishma Dev was one of the 12 great authorities in preaching this cult of devotional service. And therefore, he could receive and welcome all the powerful sages assembled there at his deathbed from all parts of the universe. He was certainly unable at that time to welcome and receive them physically, because he was neither at his home nor in a normal healthy condition. But he was quite fit by the activities of his sound mind, and therefore he could utter sweet words with hearty expressions, and all of them were well received. One can perform one's duty by physical work, by mind, and by words. And he knew well how to utilize them in the proper place, and therefore there was no difficulty for him to receive them, although he was physically unfit. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So here Srila Prabhupada is explaining that Bhishma Dev knew how to communicate. See, communication is the number one life skill. Sometimes people are speaking and speaking and speaking, but nobody is listening to them because they don't know how to communicate. Like now, the Mahavakya when you're on a Zoom call is, Prabhu, you're on mute, isn't it? Sometimes you're speaking and speaking so many things. Once I was on a Zoom call, it was a very passionate management meeting. So at one point in a management meeting, sometimes you get the inspiration to give the final conclusion. So finally I spoke up and 5 minutes, I gave the final conclusion, very passionate. And then after speaking for 5 minutes, someone said on the call, Prabhu, you're on mute. Can you say it again? I go, oh, Krishna. I just gave my heart there, I said everything. Now you want me to say it again. So sometimes we're speaking, but nobody is listening. Speaking and speaking so many things, but nobody is listening. Because sometimes we are just not relevant to the world. And therefore, here Srila Prabhupada is saying that if one is an expert dharma gna, if they know dharma, they should be able to communicate it to any person, at any time, at any place, and they should be able to make it relevant. We should come to the point where we can go to any forum in the world, a corporate firm, an educational firm, a government firm, any place, and be able to speak about any aspect of the Bhagavad Gita to any audience at any time and make it relevant. Because this is what it means to be a Dharmagna. Not just to know, but to know how to get it across to people in a relevant way. So therefore, if you want to communicate well, the first thing you have to know is the Desha, the Kala, and the Patra. You have to know the time, the place, and the circumstance within which you're functioning. Therefore, I was explaining yesterday, when Srila Prabhupada came to America, the first thing he said I was doing, he said I was studying the American people. You can imagine how strange everything was for Srila Prabhupada in America. Prabhupada had lived his whole life in Calcutta. I don't know what's more strange, for an American to go to India or for an Indian to come to America. I think so for an Indian to come to America is more strange. Because it's such an artificial civilization. Shri Shri Radha Banke Bihari Ki Jai. So Prabhupada was coming to a place where people had no culture, they had no understanding, no knowledge, no prior exposure to Srimad Bhagavatam. How was Srila Prabhupada going to communicate it to these people? When Prabhupada arrived in America, he wrote this poem. And in the very first line of the poem, he writes, Boro kripa koile Krishna adhamer prati ki logiyo nilaheta kore bhagati ache kichu karja taba e anuman nahe ke no aniben e ugrastan. When Prabhupada arrives in Boston, I was just in Boston for some months. So often we would go down to the Boston, the Commonwealth Pier, where Prabhupada arrived. So Prabhupada, when he arrived there, he wrote this poem, Boro kripa koile Krishna adhamer prati. Krishna, you are very kind on this fallen soul, but I don't know why you've brought me here. Ache kichu karja taba, but I'm thinking you must have some purpose here. Otherwise, why would you bring me to this Ugrastan, this terrible place? Rajastama guna era sabaya chan, Vasudeva katha ruchi, nahese prashan. In the very next verse, Prabhupada writes, Most of the population here is absorbed in the material modes of passion and ignorance. Vasudeva Katha Ruchi Nahese Prashan. They have no taste for hearing the message of Krishna. How will I be able to make them understand? So it's very, very foreign culture. Srila Prabhupada, he was so far away from all these people in one sense. And even the ones that came forward to hear from Srila Prabhupada, they didn't know much. Like Mukunda Maharaj I was talking about yesterday, he told another story that he used to drive Srila Prabhupada around in the early days. At this time he was still Michael. So once he had taken Prabhupada to a program, and at the end of the program, they had given Srila Prabhupada a box of dates. So in the car, he was driving Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada opened the box of dates. He said, "Oh, these are very good dates." So Prabhupada took one of the dates and he bit half of the date. And then he gave it to Michael. So he was a young American. He had no concept of Mahaprasad. So he was thinking, why is he giving it to me? He's eaten half of it. It's got his saliva on it. It's like, I don't know if I want to eat this. But he thought, the Swami is giving it to me, so maybe I should take it. I don't want to be disrespectful. So Prabhupada gave him the Maha. So he took it. So Prabhupada said, take. So he's thinking, I don't know if I want to eat this. So then finally he decided to eat a little bit of it. And then after eating a little bit of it, he gave it back to Prabhupada. So Prabhupada, I don't know who was more shocked, Michael when he got the first one, or Srila Prabhupada when he got the remnants. You have to see how much they were far away from Vedic culture. Very far away. One time they took Prabhupada to a program, and in this program, as soon as Prabhupada walked in the hall, there was one person on the stage, and he was in a banana suit. He was dressed as a banana, and he was dancing. So Prabhupada walked in, he said, "What's the meaning of this?" So they said, "Prabhupada, the hippies have realized that if you take banana skins and you dry them under certain conditions, and then you light the banana skin and you inhale the fumes, then it's like an intoxicant." So they're celebrating. So then the devotee said to Prabhupada, but the good news is that they're donating 10 kilos of bananas every week to the temple. But the only agreement is that they want the banana skins back. So Prabhupada said, what kind of civilization? They're giving the they're giving the bananas away and they want the skins back. Prabhupada couldn't relate to it at all. Such a foreign atmosphere. When Prabhupada used to go to the store to buy the groceries, then he used to come to the checkout counter and then they would give the price. And then when they would give Prabhupada the price, he would start bargaining with them, no? Because that's what you do in India, right? You bargain. You don't just, the first price is never the right price. The person on the counter is thinking, what's this person doing? Like, there's a price here, you just pay for the price. Such a different culture. So Prabhupada was Desha Karma Vibhagavit. He understood how you adjust Krishna consciousness to make it relevant to the people of the time. And this was Prabhupada's speciality. You see, every acharya has a speciality. Jagannath Das Babaji had a speciality. Gaura Virbhava Bhumestvam Nirdeshta Sajjana Priya What was Jagannath Das Babaji's glory? He discovered the place where Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared in the world. That's a big thing. Because from that place, the Yoga Pit, the spiritual capital of the world, from that place, Krishna consciousness is emanating all over the universe. So you may think, what's such a big thing? You discovered a place, so what? No, this is the place from which all the energy in the universe, spiritual energy, is circulating. Gaur Kishore Das Babaji, what was his speciality? Namo Gaur Kishoraya Shakshad Vairagya Murtaye. He showed a level of renunciation that nobody else could parallel. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, what was his speciality? Gaura Shakti Svarupaya Rupanuga Varayate. He was a consummate follower of the Goswamis and Rupa Goswami. Therefore, Bhaktivinoda Thakur was known as the seventh Goswami. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, what was his speciality? Krishna Sambandha Vijnana. He spoke to people from all religions. We should know because we're interfacing with people in the world. Srila Prabhupada would speak to people from all backgrounds and he would connect. Even Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was speaking to so many different religions and philosophical traditions. Srila Prabhupada knew about all the philosophers in the world. With his disciple Shyamasundar, he had conversations about Socrates, about Plato, about Aristotle, about Carl Jung, about Sigmund Freud, all of the great philosophers, sociologists. Prabhupada knew about them. Prabhupada knew what was going on in the world. He was addressing the challenges that people are going through in their life, people are going through in society. Srila Prabhupada even knew how to adjust his language so that he could get the message across. Sometimes people criticize his translations. Oh no, it is not accurate, not an accurate translation. But they don't understand. Prabhupada wasn't just translating in a technical way. He was translating to get the message across. For example, in Bhagavad Gita 15:6, Krishna says, Natad bhashayate shuryo na shashanko na pavakaha yadgatva na nivartante tadhama paramam mama. In this verse, Krishna is explaining the spiritual world, and Krishna says, Natad bhashayate shuryo. There, in the spiritual world, there's no need for sun. What does Prabhupada write in the translation? In the spiritual world, there's no need for the sun, the moon, or electricity. No, electricity? There's no Sanskrit word for electricity. Where did you get that from? See, Prabhupada wasn't just translating technically. Someone will say, where is the Sanskrit for this? Prabhupada was getting the message across. In the spiritual world, there is no need for any artificial or extraneous illumination because everything is self-illuminous. So in the material world, maximum illumination apart from the sun is coming from electricity. And therefore, Prabhupada writes in the translation, in the spiritual world, there's no need for electricity. Because that's what people can relate to. And therefore, Srila Prabhupada didn't just get it right, he got it across. This is what a good teacher does. So, many people criticize Srila Prabhupada for adjustments that he made. But they don't realize that Srila Prabhupada was dharmagya, and therefore desha karma vibhagavit. He understood how to communicate to the people of his time. Prabhupada once told the story of a Christian preacher who was preaching to the people, them. But at the same time, we should not preserve the details so strongly that we miss the opportunity to connect with people in a relevant way. And so this is the purpose of the Krishna consciousness movement, to make Krishna consciousness relevant, to make Krishna consciousness inspiring, and to introduce all people from all backgrounds, Desha, Kala, Vibhagavit, to know how to teach in a relevant way. And because Srila Prabhupada knew this science, therefore he was successful. One time, Srila Prabhupada was with his disciples were explaining that his godbrother said anyone could have done it. Swamiji went to America, he spread Krishna consciousness, anyone could have done it. So Prabhupada told the story of Christopher Columbus. That Christopher Columbus had gone and he had discovered America and then he had come back. And then there was a meeting of explorers. And the explorers said anyone could have done it. And then Christopher Columbus brought out an egg. And he sat in front of all the explorers and he said, I want one of you to stand this egg on its head. Now, how do you make an egg stand on its head? So everyone was baffled. No one knew how to do it. And then Christopher Columbus took the egg and he popped the front. And then he stood it up. And then Christopher Columbus looked at all the explorers and he said, anybody could have done, but I have done. Anybody could have done, but I have done. Therefore Prabhupada said, anybody could have done. Anybody could have spread the Krishna consciousness movement. But I have done it. Because Dharma Gya Desha Karma Vibhagavit. I understood how to teach Krishna consciousness according to time, place, and circumstance. Therefore, every devotee has to become very learned, very sensitive, very compassionate, very kind. And every devotee has to understand how to become a good communicator so we can reach the world with the message of Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Okay, so yesterday we spoke about Srila Prabhupada the visionary, today Srila Prabhupada the innovator. So if anyone, what they need help with. So first thing is study the people you are speaking to. In English we say you have to have your finger on the pulse, isn't it? Like if you go to Ayurvedic, all they need to do is put 2 fingers on your hand and then just close their eyes, and within a few moments they understand what your medical condition is. So in English we have the term, have your finger on the pulse, because the pulse is revealing everything that's going on. So many devotees, we are so disconnected from reality. Once we were in a university program, it was packed, 500 people in the arena. So one brahmachari was giving the talk, and in the middle of it he started saying, and the president so-and-so, and the president so-and-so. And then somebody put their hand up and said, he was the president 5 years ago. He's not the president anymore. I said, oh my God, this person doesn't even know what's going on in the world. We have no idea. How many of us would know what are the main headlines in the world right now? What are people talking about? If we don't know what's going on in the world, how will we be relevant? So the first thing is people won't hear you if you don't hear them, right? When you listen to people, then they will be more likely to listen to you. Why did Krishna in the first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, he